Bright Suns, and welcome back to an all new episode of Let's Talk About Star Wars with Maggie Lovett. This is a very special episode because it's happening in the middle of the week and not on a Sunday. But I am here to talk about two new things that just came out today. First up is the Tempest Runner by Cavan Scott, which is all about the Nile's vicious Lorna D. It is an audio drama that is 6 hours and 5 minutes long, and it is worth every single second of it. It is so good. It has such a robust cast of voice characters, and particularly Lorna D is just so great. I loved getting to hear how she is supposed to sound because she is from Ryloth, and she obviously has that great French accent, but it's so gruff and so like smoky, and like she sounds like she could definitely kill like everybody in a room like that. But it was so fun to see her story, both after the Rising Storm and also where she came from. She has such a, this is all spoilers, she has such a tragic backstory with what happened on Ryloth with her family, and just everything that she has endured that kind of led her to becoming a Nile. And I think it is really compelling what Cavan has kind of created for that character. And I said this in my episode on Sunday, but I wasn't like a big Lorna D fan. She was fine. I thought she was an interesting character, but she wasn't like, oh my God, stop everything. I love this character. But this audio drama gave me newfound respect for her. And like afterwards, I was like, well, Martian Rowe, I love, and now I love Lorna D. And they are very much at odds with each other. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out in the next wave. I'm confident that that is being set up for some interesting dynamics kind of going down the line. But yeah, I was enamored with this. I ended up listening to it in 2 days, kind of splitting it in half, 3 and 3. And oh my God, it's so good. You are in for a treat. I don't want to spoil too much. This is kind of loose spoilers, but it's so good. I will say, like, my only complaint is that Martian Rowe does not sound like how I picture Martian Rowe when I'm reading it. Mark Thompson plays him with a much younger voice than kind of his kind of visage, kind of belays, which is kind of interesting. But it's so fun because Mark also does Panetta's voice. And so there's like this one point where Panetta is talking to Martian Rowe, and it's just surreal to think that they are the same actor, because their voices are so different. And it's so good. I really loved the dynamics of the characters that Lorna D ends up interacting with, both in her past, when she is sold. Poor Twi'leks, they seem to be sold as slaves far too often in Star Wars, and that whole situation that she endures in that. And then some of the things that she encounters in the main timeline are just really, really interesting. There is one character in particular, John, who has a really interesting story with Lorna D that was kind of unexpected, and I liked how the balance was played, and I think it makes for some really interesting storytelling. And I'm curious to see if we see him again, because things are kind of left up in the air. And yeah, just very interesting. This was my first audio drama that I listened to completion. I have listened to some of Dr. Aphra and some of Count Dooku, but I ended up just reading them. I'm not the biggest audiobook person. I have some issues with just how I can visualize stuff. I'm much more of a book person. So I cannot wait for the script of this to come out at some point, because I know it will. Because it'll help me kind of keep track of some of the characters. There are a lot more characters than what is on the cast list that we received. And it's so interesting. Yeah, I cannot wait for more people to listen to this, not to read this. I'm so used to saying read this, but I can't wait for more people to listen to this. Obviously it just came out, and the conversations about Lorna D are going to be fascinating because she is such a cool character. And And yeah, I just love her so much. So that happened. It's so good. I think that there's going to be some really interesting things happening as we move forward down the line with the High Republic, and I simply cannot wait to see Lorna D again. And speaking of the Nile, we also got issue 8 of the High Republic Adventures from Daniel Jose Older today, and it is so good. We get some unmasked Martian Row, which I am a big fan of. And Crix and Zine are like all grown up. And it just, I cannot believe it. All of my little babies are growing up. I feel like I've known them for so long. But I also really liked this comic because, not just talking about the Nile, talking about the Jedi as well. Zine no longer feels like the newcomer with the Jedi because they have brought back kind of some new characters. This issue in particular seems to be right after everything that happened at Valo in the Rising Storm. They have brought back Ram, who is hanging out with them, and he's a newcomer, and Court and Verzala are back from their kind of harrowing adventure, and they've brought somebody back, and they're all just one big family who talk about cooking. I don't think I ever would have equated the Jedi with so much cooking, but I love that we have like Yoda and cookie recipes and like all sorts of fun stuff. And huge kudos to Daniel for kind of incorporating this into the story because it's so fun. But I think we're on this trajectory of whatever encounter is going to happen with the Nile and the Jedi. That seems to be the next maybe stage in the story, because Crix has a big old chip off his shoulder in terms of Zine being a Jedi, and he has definitely been empowered and emboldened by his time with the Nile. And I really like his dynamic with Martian. Martian's kind of taken on, I don't know if it's like a father figure type position in Crix's life or more of like an older brother, but Martian definitely sees potential in Crix and has given him more rank than perhaps other characters who have been around longer. And so he's very much in Martian's inner circle, which gives him a lot more power. And I feel like Crix has the potential for being like a truly heartless character because he has no care at all about Zine, which is obviously not true because he probably deeply cares about his former best friend, but he feels so betrayed by her having been a Jedi, being force sensitive, having grown up in a culture where force sensitive people were very much a no-go. So that is going to be some interesting storytelling. And, this comic also brought back Maz. We have not seen Maz, but she's there, and everything is getting ready to converge there. So I have a feeling we're going to see Maz, which is fun. I think she was such a great character in the sequel trilogy. And so it's kind of fun to see that she's been around for a long time. And I'm sure she's seen a lot of crazy stuff. But I think it's going to be so much fun to see where the High Republic Adventures are going, and seeing some of the characters from the past wave of books kind of all converging together to deal with things. Because, of course, we had Crix in Justina Ireland's Out of the Shadows. And now he's like all grown up and he's got like floppy hair. And yeah, I can't believe that we have already seen so many of these Padawans and other characters in the same generation are like tall and like beanpoles, and they're just growing up so fast. But yeah, so we've just had so much High Republic stuff coming out lately. And I just wanted to get on and talk about these two things that came out today, because I just really love the High Republic, y'all. I love it so much. But I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks about the Tempest Runner. I look forward to conversing with all of you on Twitter about it. And of course, the High Republic Adventures. Until Sunday or the next time I make a video, may the Force be with you. And as always, thank you so much for watching and subscribing.